Hello, 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 and welcome to another gay book review. book review, I don't really know what I'm going with anymore. But as far as what we're talking about this weekend, we're going to be discussing The Kidnapping of Roan Sinclair by Ashlyn Druick. This is another book I read on the March trip. If you have been keeping up with these, most of the books I've been reviewing have been stuff I've been reading on the trips. Um, yeah, I haven't gotten to touch on the April trip yet that I took basically after the end of March, beginning of April, since it was end of March for the March trip, beginning of April for the convention. I think there's a couple that I have, at least one, maybe two of them that I've read on the April trip that are coming up next, but probably not going to be in the next few videos. Three of them. Anyway, there's some coming up ahead. I'm making this intro way too long than it needs to be, but we're going to be talking about this novel. I quite enjoyed it. So before we get into it, as per usual, we have major spoilers for the story ahead. Also, some content warning. This book does have a lot of graphic and cultural references to how one specific culture, views views same-sex attraction, being gay, lesbian, etc., and the way that they handle those. So it is dark. This is also a dark fucking book. Spoilers for that. It's the kidnapping of Roan Sinclair. I don't know what you expected, but it's not going to be a light romp through a field. So if you have anything like that about, kidnapping or homophobia, as we're going to be touching on some of that, or just general, not like Stockholm Syndrome like books like Beauty and the Beast is too much for you. If Beauty and the Beast is too much for you, no shade, no lie. This book is your fucking nightmare. So I would just send you a warning now to just go ahead and not watch this. So, diving into the characters, because I think that's the easiest place to start since some of these names are going to be thrown about in the story summary. We have the two main characters, Roan Sinclair and Alexander Vasilev, or more commonly known as Sasha, and I'll probably be referring to him as Sasha throughout. So Roan is currently in a grad school pursuing a degree based on his parents, Reed father's, demand. He would rather play music, but instead his father would rather hear none of that noise. Not like he's a bad performer, but just that's not what the Sinclair family does. So being the only child and the main, lead son, you're going to be doing this. Joyce, which is his father's assistant, is much more of a parental figure for him, much more of a motherly figure for him. His mother is very much in the MLM, specifically like multi-level marketing or pyramid scheme stuff. It's a new pyramid scheme a week, basically. So, he has a soft spot for Joyce. He doesn't back down throughout the story or hold his tongue, even if the situation would demand it, unless he's using it to antagonize somebody by withholding his voice or withholding his opinions or withholding being answered or giving an answer to a direct question. So he knows how to push buttons, and he pushes the buttons very well, in my opinion. He's also down to do crime to ruin his father and get revenge on him, which I love. I love, going against your parental figures and doing what you need to do. Sasha, though, is described as a tall, strong, ruthless, Russian mobster. He is self-hating, which is where the internalized homophobia comes in, for wanting to do gay stuff with Roan. Due to mob rules and also Russian law, the mob specifically has put down people for being gay and being found out. So it's definitely a risky thing for him to do to want to be with Roan. He's also definitely clearly struggling with his sexuality towards the middle of the book. I actually copied a couple of quotes from the book because I felt like they were very evocative of certain things. I think there's two more, maybe one more. But Roan was worried about cancer when Sasha is smoking a cigarette. I was worried about an even darker disease, referring to his own sexuality. And I was like, damn, dude, damn. So when he is confronted with his own sexuality and his own homosexuality at the end of the book, he doesn't back down when challenged. And it ends up working out in his favor because of that. And not to spoil it too much, but he's not vilified for it. I mean, it's more of a old, archaic, don't ask, don't tell, I don't want to see it mentality. But it's not like he's just now facing what his predecessor did. Not Sasha's predecessor, but the other, gay mobster who was found out, which was death. So, progress. Yay. It's a dark book. It's not a light read, but it's a dark, dark book. Here comes the gaggle of side characters, not in a bad way, but we have Frankie, Francesca Starling, and Freddie Starling, their brother and sister. Frankie is the best friend and ex with Roan. They were kind of beards for each other. Not saying Frankie's lesbian, but she was at least his ex, and when he came out as gay, they remained best friends. So it's probably the most realistic friend I've ever read in these dark romance stories, because Roan is basically just like doing whatever the fuck he wants, not wilding out of control, but basically wilding out of control. And Frankie's like, honey, you're acting like a fool for a man who kidnapped you. And I'm like, realistic. I like the realistic depiction of the friend being so like in your face about just the thing that's going on. So Freddy, though, is a gamer and is on Roan's side for most of the story and most of the major plot elements involving Roan and Sasha, which, again, it's like the angel and devil on your shoulders, and I like that relationship, having it be, brother and sister. And then, I am sorry, I read this book like 2 months ago, a little under 2 months ago. I went through and grabbed every single name that I could. So we have Misha, Victor, Ivan, Yuri, Edward, and Dmitry and Sergei, and I don't know how to differentiate any of these, because some of these only show up for like maybe a scene and then their name just gets tossed about. Like, for example, I know Ivan brings Roan food when Roan first gets kidnapped. Yuri is the one who sets him free, which we'll cover. Again, spoilers. Misha is the one Roan goes to find Sasha. Sergei is the big bad at the end. It's just like, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of names. So, again, we'll get into it with the rankings, but I don't remember if I ranked the characters that high because of it. So, moving on to the story overview. So after having an unsuccessful conversation with his father about the latter's, at the latter's bank, just basically a conversation about what he wants to do, Roan, with him being a musician and stuff like that. Roan is knocked out by a tall, buff man after a failed robbery. Sasha realizes that he can use Roan for information, as he is the son of one of the owners of the bank, and he sets him free. He gets knocked out. They realize, oh my god, he's the guy who could help us, so we didn't kidnap him in the beginning, which was a bait and switch, because I thought, oh, he's going to get kidnapped in like chapter 1. No, it does not happen that fast, but it does happen fast. And then Roan gets kidnapped a few weeks later after the botched bank robbery, wakes up in a cage and asks his kidnapper, what is he doing there? Like, what are they after? Can he, like, what's going on? And Sasha gets no concern from the father when the ransom note is found after it was sent, and this comes back, and I thought this was going to have like just like a brushed aside moment, but this actually comes back, and Roan is like devastated, but also not devastated by the fact that the father could have easily given the demands and did nothing to rescue his child. So that sucks. When the cops arrive at the warehouse, Roan is being kept in the cage because of the sex trafficking that they're also involved in. They're also Russian mobsters, so I should probably give them a trigger warning for that as well. There's also trafficking in this book. It's a dark romance. It's a dark, dark, dark book. Sasha relocates him to a motel where things slowly develop past the captive role, if you will. And this is where we start seeing Sasha's like hesitance with regards to his own sexuality and wanting Roan, but also wanting to do right by the mob and not get killed for that, or not also botch the fucking mission that they're trying to do. So after a short stay at the motel, where things get a little spicy, Roan is moved again to a basement where things come to a head with Sasha, as Roan is icing him out, but being friendly with Ivan, Sasha's subordinate, and that's why I mentioned some of the names earlier. So Roan and Sasha dynamic is basically started with their animosity towards each other. Roan wants to really push Sasha's buttons and have Sasha react and give him what he wants, basically. And Sasha keeps Roan at arm's length, except for when he's telling the other man to come inside or come in intimate situations, like press up against the wall, in the hotel room, in the cage, stuff like that. It's a very power imbalance relationship in the start, and I appreciate that for what it is. But at some point, kind of towards the middle-ish of the book, Yuri lets Roan escape, and then he returns home to little fanfare. His mother is obviously concerned. His father is none best pleased by the fact that he's returned and thinks it was all a joke. He finds out that the father did get the ransom note and decided to do nothing with it, essentially leaving Roan for dead to these guys who just wanted a safety deposit box. That was it, So at that point is when Roan turns and is now wanting to basically get revenge on his father. So he works out a way to find out how to get in contact with Sasha after he just left. He just straight up left and hightailed it home. He called the cops. He got home, stuff like that. So he gets, what they were after in the beginning of the story, which was a flash drive. Said flash drive has a lot of incriminating information on a high-ranking mobster, and now they're kind of poised in a weird position of they have this, but they shouldn't have it, which means they've stolen from somebody, but they can't figure out who, and so they realize, oh, this is who we stole after. So during their planning on figuring out who set them up to begin with, Roan gets bashed because he's gay and flirting dangerously with Sasha here, and winds up in the hospital barely alive, where Sasha, Freddie, and Frankie can barely get him to talk at all. He's just not comatose per se, but he's just withdrawn inside of his shell. So after a very heartfelt statement from Sasha, Roan orders the wolf, Sasha, to take out those who did this to him, but doesn't name them. And so when Sasha starts naming them, he stops up on one, and Sasha's off. He's just gone. He's going to do his thing. And then with some point after, Sasha leaves and starts, offing the people who did this to Roan, Misha arrives to take Roan to Sergei and has Sasha outed in front of Victor, Misha, and Dmitri. This is where Sasha admits that he is gay and will protect Roan and will not kneel to another man except for his lover. And I was like, God, that line got me. And then Sergei takes on Sasha as his wolf, and all will be fine so long as he never hears or sees of their relationship out in public. Behind closed doors is fine. He just never wants to be apprised of it. And I'm like, great. Happily ever after achieved? ? Like, is this like the happily ever after? I mean, it's a dark novel. Don't get me wrong. It's the best I could get for what this is. But it's, for me, a novel that I think is reminiscent of the military's Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So besides that, I would say it's a great novel. It's definitely a longer read. I think this book clocks in just over 400 pages, almost 500 pages, I want to say. I could be wrong. I don't have it in front of me today. But I did enjoy this. I really enjoyed this, as we'll see when we get to the rankings in a second. But before that, let's go through some tropes. So, cancel all my meetings. I'm currently tied up with the tropes. So we obviously have the enemies to lovers, strangers to lovers. Roan and Sasha are clearly not friends, and with Roan's antagonistic streak, he gets under Sasha's skin and is not in the best way possible. It's such a slow burn between Sasha and Roan, and I love that for me. It doesn't just tease you the entire time with like, will they, won't they? There's some subtle flirting. There's also some sex scenes that are like spiced and peppered throughout. But it's filled with drama and twists in the relationship, and I appreciate that. The other thing is to comment on is the homophobia. Obviously, the Russian mobsters, by part of them being Russian and also being mobsters, they have their own view of homosexuality and what is and is not permissible, and in this case, it is not permissible. So they use various slurs within the book, so just be aware you're going to see some F-bombs dropped. If that triggers you, just a heads up. It refers to homosexuality as a disease that must be eradicated, specifically with the execution of the other mobster who was found out to be gay. They just straight up executed him and then tortured his lover. So, and there's also queer bashing. So, like, it's again a dark novel. It's not a fluffy light read. It's definitely something you're gonna have to kind of come to terms with at your own leisure, if you will. But yeah, and then as far as rankings go, we'll go through all these one by one: the plot, the characters, the writing style, and then the spicy scenes, and then an overall ranking at the end. So overall for plot, it's a 5-star book. This, I would say, is the definition of like plot with porn, because like this book is so much plot focused. The characterization between Sasha and Roan, the internal struggle with Sasha, the coming to grips with his family being a fucking asshole family with Roan, like, it's good. I enjoy this so much. It's a good novel. The plot is really intense, and I enjoyed it. And it, as far as I can tell, every like kind of thread gets tied up at the end for the most part. I don't know if there's any sequels to this. Actually, no, I do. There are some sequels to this. So I do know that there's the Vengeance of Roan Sinclair, which is the next book, I believe. So maybe we'll see what Roan is like as a mobster wife. We'll see. And then for characters, I'm giving it a 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed Roan as a character, and the POV switches every chapter for the most part. Some chapters might be 2 for Roan, 1 for Sasha, vice versa, depending on who needs to be doing what. But I enjoyed the characters. I liked the side characters. I will say the mobsters all kind of got like jumbled together for me at the end because there are just so many of them. But I'm also not in the lifestyle, and also I have a hard time with names, so that's a me thing, not necessarily a flaw with a book, if you will. The writing style, is a full 5 stars. I love the writing style of this book. I could not recommend this enough in terms of the way the plot is written, the mystery is written, the whole aspect of the romance is written, the will they won't they kind of in the beginning, the antagonistic hate fucking, if you will, in the middle, the dedication of Sasha to Roan at the end, where he is Sasha's is now basically Roan's wolf and goes after the guys who assaulted and touched his Roan. Fucking broke my heart and like made me so happy to see people get brutally tortured. It's fun. It's fun. I have something probably wrong with my brain, but it's okay. Oh, I didn't fill in the sex scenes? Oh, I did. I just duplicated it twice. Okay. The spicy scenes, 4 out of 5 stars. I wish there was like one more at the end, like a good hard pounding, if you will. But for what we got in the book, it's a solid sexy book. And like I said, it's porn. It's plot with porn, if you will. There's a lot more plot than there is porn, but there is definitely some porn within that plot. So as far as an overall ranking, it's 4.5 stars for me. It's not quite a 5-star. Like I said, if there was like one more like hard, intense sex scene at the end, like after Rona's recovered, after the whole drama with the stuff is over, but maybe that's what the second book is going to kind of like lead you into. I don't know. But I really enjoyed this one. I could not recommend this enough. However, that being said, it is dark. So as far as the recommendations go, I have 2. And one of them is one that I was not hoping to talk about, but here we are. So for the Russian mob romance, I immediately thought of Psychopath Daddy, the book that I did not like reading, but I have my own personal issues with it because of the writing style. But I think in terms of comparing them, they're very similar in terms of not necessarily length or plot, but just the fact that they're Russian mobsters who fall in love with a non-Russian mobster. And like, there's that whole kind of, dating a mob member dynamic. So couple of things. I don't want to spoil too much about Psychopath Daddy because this is not the book review for that. It delves into the little space and stuff like that, where like grown men have like play dates as not role playing as children, but essentially role playing as children is the best way I can phrase it. And that is not something I wasn't personally into, but I didn't really mind for the book because I can get into basically anything as long as the story's good. The writing style though, where it uses like AF and like common vernacular of like slang as like text speech in like actual thoughts and like actual spoken dialogue. And I'm like, for me, I would say that's hot as fuck, like hot AF, but like I'm saying that as like an ironic thing, but like I don't want to read that as like a literature thing or in a book. So that's my hang up with it. I'm recommending it. Or if you want to read Convict Daddy, which is book 6 in the Russian Protector series by Aster Ray, I will recommend that one more. But as far as like the parallels, I think the Psychopath Daddy fits more because of the way the Psychopath Daddy in the Psychopath Daddy novel and Sasha are intertwined. And as far as a wild card, if dark stuff is not for you, and I know it's not for everybody, if you like something more slice of life, this is what I read on the April trip, actually. I read this on the April one. It's Love Blood. It's the Portland Pack Book 1. I'm in the Pacific Northwest. I wanted to read something about Portland, and here it is by MJ O'Shea. And oh my god. High school, lovers, drama. It's a lot. Shifters. It's a lot. It's good. I think the romance is between 2 shifters, which is usually not my cup of tea because I like the human shifter like dynamic more. But I like it. I like the book. Love Blood. Could not recommend that enough. It's almost on the same length, if you will, as The Kidnapping of Roan Sinclair, but I would say it's a little bit shorter. But it's good. I like the plot. I like the drama. There's a lot of teen angst in this one, so if you aren't into that, I understand. But those are the recommendations I would have. One more in the vein of Russian mobster romances, and then one completely out of left field because I just wanted to give you something a little bit happier, less dramatic, and less dark to read. And as far as anything goes, please do all the YouTube-y stuff if you don't mind. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys just watching these first and foremost. Thank you guys for giving me your 20 minutes in an afternoon, your lunch hour, your drawing time, whatever you use this for. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I stream nightly on Twitch starting at 6 p.m. PST at twitch.tv/SharadaSky. I play a different game each night, so there's something for everybody. I mainly stick to JRPGs personally, but I have been known to do some things like tactics games, some horror games, some puzzle games like Myst and stuff like that. I also have a Twitter. You can find me on twitter.com/SharadaSky as well. I tweet mainly just sexy men and sexy art for my friends, so it's very not safe for work, but I hope you guys, if you enjoy that kind of stuff and are of age, please follow me. I also have a Patreon. I don't really plug it that often, as I say I've been doing at the end of every video now, but I don't really plug it that often. I don't really need the money. I have a job. My computer is on its last legs, though, not to try and like pressure you or guilt trip you. I can take care of that myself. I'm just waiting to save up some funds. But if you guys want to help out, we have different tiers starting at $1 where you can get like early access content, watch these videos, coming on Wednesdays-ish before the weekend. Or if you want, you can donate up to $15 and you can actually suggest a book for me to read. And if you want to, feel free. But again, no pressure. You guys don't ever have to give me anything other than just your time, which I value so much. So I hope you guys had a wonderful time listening to me talk about very passionate Russian mobsters. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week ahead. And I'll see you guys next week as we touch on some, let's say, more feral book reviews. And I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I keep saying night for Twitch, but hope you guys have a wonderful evening, weekend, life, week ahead, work week, whatever. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe out there, friends. And I love you. Have a good one.